Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to be doing some Python programming as we already did for the last two videos. We learned about Python introduction and Python Python installation and everything. Now we're going to actually start working on Python. So just open your PyCharm first. Let's just open the PyCharm. Just go and open up PyCharm. Okay, we're just gonna wait for the PyCharm to finish. Alright, so let's just get started. So the first topic we're going to learn about Python is a variable. So we're gonna learn what is variable, and I'm gonna just explain you in a bit more details, with a bit more details. So what is variables? Just think it like a glass and a water. Okay, so for getting the concept of variable, we're gonna do a real life example, such as you have a glass, and inside that glass you have water. Now, how does this represent Python variables? Well, think like the glass is a container, right? Which contains water. Like the same way, variables are a container which contains data. Now, these data is specified. It can be object and it can be data types also. Now we're going to talk about data types a little further in this video. Don't worry about that. You'll learn everything you need to know about data types. But just know variable is a container which contains values. It can be an object. It can be a data. It's a data which it is a container of a data. It's called a variable. Alright. So we have some restriction of creating variables, such as the variables should the variable first character of the variable must be an underscore. By the way, this is kind of optional. If it's not underscore, there's no error. That's fine. All the characters except the first character may be an alphabet of lowercase. Yes, this is a good point. A variable cannot start like this. A variable can't be like this. It's not going to show you errors or anything, but it's not good to make a variable like this. This is not case sensitive. And we also have, you must not contain these special characters like a not sign, @ sign, hashtag sign, percentage, crate sign, and sign, and star. These type of text cannot be added as a variable name. Okay. And one more thing is just some extra thing. Suppose you like Python program. Now you want to say the description of this program, you can use comment. Like this comment won't execute as a program. You can do it by saying hashtag. This is a sample comment. If you run your program like this won't show any error because this text right here is known as a comment. So this won't get it as a program, right? But this does. So if you want to just comment, just type hashtag and then do your comments. Alright. So the variable must contain these letters, and the next thing is it's case sensitive. And also you can actually use a snake casing. Suppose there's more casing. So the first casing is called camel casing. Camel casing almost looks like this. Suppose first name, you say first name. This is how you can declare a variable, a meaningful variable. And what snake casing looks like, it looks like this. So you cannot use any spaces in a variable. So for that you do an upper letter for each word, and right here for just saying the space you use an underscore for defining a space. So these are some restriction of variables. And there's one more restriction of variables. You cannot start the variable with a number. Like this is 1AB. This is invalid. This is invalid. But if you do AB1, now this is valid. So you have to actually make sure about these things. Alright. Okay, now how about this is variables, and I'm going to talk more about variables after learning data types. So just know these things about variables. Variable is a container which contains a particular data. So now we're going to learn about data types. Alright, so data types and variables are almost as in a relationship. So a variable is a container, and a data type is the type of the data which is inside the container. A data type is a type of data. Suppose a number is a data type because it represents a 1, 2, 3. It's a type of a data. A text is a data type, but these things are declared as another name in Python. So I'm just gonna tell you about this in a second. Alright, so now we know what is a data type. It's a type of a data. So now you might be wondering how these things have relationships. How? Especially because these things have relationship by, suppose you have a container. And also one more thing is in PyCharm you can actually start commands by using Ctrl/. Alright, so suppose you have a variable which will contain data, which will contain a particular data. Now these particular data is what? This can be a particular value. So this particular value must have a data type. So it needs to have a type of the data inside a variable. Suppose if I say hashtag variable, the number is our variable, okay? Now this number variable is, I'm gonna say number equals 1. So what it means, number is a variable which contains a data which is a number 1. Now this 1 number is a data type. Now 2 is also a data type. 3, this is a value of that data type, but these all are a number data type. If I type 22222, this is also number data type. If I type 333, this is also number data type. And there is some data types in Python, just we're gonna look over it. Alright, so if I look over the data types in Python, the first data type in Python are this data types. Let's just say data type. And I think I'm gonna push this to GitHub, so I'm just gonna make another file for these things. Let's create a new Python file. Data types and variable. This is the file name. Alright, so now there is multiple data types in Python. Now if I see them, it's really simple. Alright, so it's really simple. So the data types is, well, there's multiple data types in Python. You can see data types. So the first data type in Python is integer, which represent as int. So this is a short name for integer, is called int. And I probably wonder what is integer. Well, integer is a type of data which can only contain a whole number. Suppose a whole number is example as 1, 2, 3, 4. But it can be 5.5. Alright, perfect. And the next thing we have is called float. float is represented as float. It's a small little float. Okay. The float is a data type which contains like a decimal, like 1.2, 3.4, 5.5. It cannot be 5. It cannot be a whole number. It needs to be a decimal. This thing also works, but it cannot be 5 only. So just make sure of that. And the next thing we have is called string. Now string is str in Python, which represents text. So it can be text like, I'll just get e.g. Ayman. So now this text are represented as double quotes. In the middle of the double quotes, you will type a text. As the first example of our course, we used a hello world. Now this hello world is a particular text. Now in this Tahsin Ayman, Tahsin is also a particular text. This can be also represented by a double quote sign at the both ends, or it can start with a single quote. Alright, the next thing we have is called Boolean, which is represented as bool. Now, a Boolean data type is a let's just say a true and false. It's like a truth and a lie. Suppose I say, is Tahsin married? Now what this variable would be? It cannot be number, it cannot be string. This is it's just yes or no, right? So these things are represented with Boolean, which is true or false. So an example is married equals false, and I'm gonna say like is authorized is equals true. Alright, so this is our example of this Boolean data type, string data type, float data type, and integer. These are some basic data types in Python. There's also some external data types, which we say none. Now none is represented with no value. None is represented with let's just say no, nothing. Is nothing, or null. Values are represented as a none. Now this none can be, it's just none. So suppose, how many kids does Tahsin have? I know you'll say it can be 0, right? 0 also represents none. But it can also be none because Tahsin doesn't have any kids. Whenever I say 0, it means he is married, but he doesn't have any kids. But when I say none, he doesn't have any kids and he's also not married. This is the data types, the basic data types of Python. Okay, now we're gonna learn the implementation of data types with variables. Alright, suppose this is our variable example. As we know, we're gonna use the snake casing. So suppose I say number, it's 2, number 2, the number 2, okay, and I say the height, this is a number 2, if I number is equals to. Now what to do if you want to print the value which is inside this variable? You can simply type print, as we learned as the first example, and put the variable name which will represent the value of that container. So every time I run this program, it will say 2. Now I just want to check something. Suppose I say 1 number, and I run this program, and this will show an error because this isn't valid. Okay, this is a number, or I'll just say like let's just make it meaningful, which is age 13. and this will show without it. So now the next thing we'll have is called float. Now I'm just gonna say height equals 25.5. Weight, no, it's just too much height. I don't have much. 6.5, and weight is equals 54.5. Now if I print those, print height and print weight, and it will simply show it like this. Now the last thing is called a name. A name is like Tahsin. This will return a name, which is a string. Now I'll just say we need a is married. Is married. Print is married. And I'll say kids is equal to none. Now none's just have the capital letter, and kids. As you can see, these are the values. Now suppose you want to see what type of data type is this. You can simply see by, suppose I want to see what this name data type is. So you just put a type and brackets in the middle of brackets, just in the middle of brackets, just put your variable name and then print the name. And if I run this program, this will show a class str. And as we also know, the class str represents the string data type. This is how simple you can. Now this type is a function which we're going to know later in this video. So don't worry about it, I'm going to teach you everything. So this is how simply variables can be. So this is it for the video. I'm going to see you in the next video where we talk about more things about Python.